now. I want to introduce Senator Jim Risch, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, Senator Tim Kaine, Senator Angus King, Senator John Barrasso, Representative Jim Banks, and Mrs. Cindy McCain. We're going to have quick opening remarks from Senator Risch and Kaine, and then we're going to open it up to questions.
I'm going to yield to Senator Kaine, who has another commitment and has to leave. So, Senator Kaine.
Well, I just want to thank to my chairman and to all in the delegation, Seth Moulton, who's here last night, and my Senate colleagues. I'm on the next panel, and I want to at least meet the panelists who are going to fire questions at me, so I will duck out. But it's good to be back in Halifax. This is a really important gathering of global democracies, and it's my sixth visit in my 7 years in the Senate, and it's something I really look forward to. I so appreciate the Canadian government's commitment to this, and through the changes in the Canadian administrations, the commitment has stayed strong, and that's very, very important. So many challenging issues that we're dealing with. The panel that I'm about to be on is a panel about the value of allies, and I mentioned last night, even the notion of allies, or the notion of experts for that matter, is sort of under a conceptual attack, or at least conceptual stress. But I do believe that we are stronger when we have allies, and the alliances and the multinational institutions that we've been part of have been good for the world, good for the United States, and we need to strengthen them. Sharing our commonalities, but also talking candidly about our differences is what makes Halifax strong. I know one of the things we do when we're not in the sessions there is we have endless bilateral meetings where we talk about issues in common and also raise issues of dispute. And then that makes it easier to understand each other's points of view, and then hopefully if we can do that, we can better find solutions. I'm going to go be part of the next panel, but I'll turn it back over to Senator Risch and my colleagues, and good to be back. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. To take off on that a little bit, one of the real benefits of these meetings, whether it's Halifax here or whether it's Munich that we always do in January, we get a chance to really focus on the commonality that we have. When we get together, there's much more emphasis on that than the differences that we have. Generally speaking, the challenges that we have are challenges to all of us. You all do a really good job of underscoring our differences from time to time. It certainly makes for good reading for some of your subscribers. But the fact of the matter is, what we do focus on is the commonality, and we have a lot of things in common. Even though we do have specific disagreements, our common values of freedom, of democracy, which of course has been underscored by everybody coming together on this Hong Kong issue. These are the kinds of things that bring us together. These kind of conferences do bring us together and underscore that. So with that, we'll be happy to answer. Anybody else for the good of the order here? Angus? You always have something.
Did you hear what he said? He said, you always have something to say. He didn't say something worthwhile, which was Abraham Lincoln was once asked what he would do if he was given an hour to split a cord of wood. And his answer was, I'd spend the first 15 minutes sharpening my axe. And I think that's a very profound observation. Most of us would just set about chopping. And a conference like this is the sharpening of the axe. And I don't mean that in a military or a confrontational way. I mean it in a thinking way. And as a young man in business, I used to say, I can't waste my time going to conferences. And then I learned that when you go to conferences, A, you have time to think, and two, you learn from each other and you come away with important insights and ideas. So that's why a conference like this is so valuable, to bring people from around the world together, to share experiences, to share insights. Many of us are dealing with very similar problems, whether it's in foreign policy or in domestic issues, and it's always helpful to find out how other people are confronting and dealing with similar kinds of issues. So this is very valuable, and I do want to thank the people of Halifax and the organizers. It's not easy to put together something of this magnitude and scope, and it's really been a great conference so far. I'm looking forward to the rest of the day. So I'm sure we'll be glad to take your questions. Senator Barrasso.
I'm John Barrasso from Wyoming. It is the sixth time I've been to Halifax. John McCain brought me the first time, and it's such a privilege to be here with Cindy McCain today as we see the people of Hong Kong getting the John McCain Medal for their fight for freedom and for independence and the things that John stood for. We've seen the the millions of people coming out into the streets of Hong Kong, and it's a privilege for all of us to be here standing together. We have a bipartisan group. Not one of us stood up here and said which party we were a member of. There are 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. We're all here as Americans today.
I'm an independent who caucuses with the Democrats.
But partisanship doesn't matter here today. We are bipartisan and standing with Cindy today and standing with the people of Hong Kong, and we've done so strongly. I certainly personally believe, and Tim is up there now on the conference talking about allies. I think the United States cannot be the policeman of the world, but we have a role to play as the glue to hold and bring people together. And as John used to say, we cannot fight every fight. We cannot put out every fire. But when we could, we should, especially if it's consistent with our values and our vision. And as Chairman Risch had said, those values: democracy, opportunity, liberty, and equality. So thanks so much for allowing us to continue to participate in this wonderful conference.
Thank you, John. Congressman, would you?
This is a tremendous summit. It's great to be here. I was very inspired this morning by the McCain award given to the people of Hong Kong, and in that moment, I was even more proud of the Congress of the United States and the Senate and the House almost unanimously passing the piece of legislation this week. I hope the President will sign it, and that's a tremendous show of support for the freedom-loving people of Hong Kong. So great to be here.
Cindy, would you like to say?
I was very honored again today to be able to offer an award to a group of people that are struggling right now. And that's what John McCain was about. That's what he believed in. That's why we established this award. So I'm just grateful that we recognize the people of Hong Kong and recognize the fight that they're under against a threat that is ominous, as we know. And I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for including me in this today.
Thanks so much. Well, have at it. Jump ball.
All right, I just asked that you state your outlet and your name when you stand up. Just want to go first. Joe, you got a question?
Hi, Joe Gould from Defense News. It's great to see you here. Thank you. President Trump yesterday suggested that he might veto the Hong Kong legislation designed to support the pro-democracy protesters. Despite its near unanimous passage in both chambers to pave the way for a trade deal with China. I wanted to ask, actually, Senator Barrasso, Senator Risch was asked this yesterday, but because of your role in leadership in the Senate majority, what would be the response in Congress to a presidential veto? Thank you.
Well, as Chairman Risch said yesterday that he hopes that the President would sign it, I would hope so as well. There's overwhelming support for this. As 100 in the United States Senate, I would imagine there'd be an override of this, but I would encourage the President to sign it.
When I was a governor, when they brought me a bill, I always said, what did it pass by? That's an important question that is generally asked by a chief executive when they put a bill in front of them.
All right. Steve, do you have one?
I just had a question. I'm sure you're familiar with the case with Special Operations Chief Edward Gallagher, and President Trump has essentially defended him and said he should retain his trident, his SEALs pen, and the Secretary of the Navy yesterday said he believed in the process, that he should be reviewed by his peers. I was wondering where you guys stood on that. There a lot of questions come up. Can a tweet be considered a military, an order from the Commander-in-Chief? But above all, about accountability in the military. So I was wondering, especially the Republican senators, if you could comment, where do you stand on that?
How about Angus? You're independent. Yeah, you're independent. Get up there, Angus. Answer this good question.
Like Jim Risch, I was a former governor and had the pardon power. And my belief in exercising that power was that it was something to be done very sparingly and never to be done in a second guessing of the judicial process. I never considered myself a kind of ultimate appeals court. I provided pardons to people who had been through the system, had paid their debt to society, and wanted to clear their names for some other reason. That's a long way of saying I believe that the process, whatever it is and whatever the outcome will be, should be allowed to run its course without intervention from the president or anybody else. I think this is it's a matter of good order and discipline in the military and a respect for the military's own processes. And this process that's underway now, as I understand it, is not a criminal process. It does not involve jail time or anything else. It involves whether or not the SEALs themselves, they have a process for determining whether someone can be retained in that honorable corps. And I think that's a process that should be respected. But of course, the president is the commander-in-chief of the military. So the question now before us is whether he is going to, in fact, issue an order, and that will be decided, I suspect, in the next few days.
I never pardoned or commuted anybody when I was governor, so I'm probably the wrong guy to ask on this. But look, the power is spread out in the country. The President of the United States or the Chief Executive of the state has the pardon or commutation power. It's personal with them, and they would use it as they saw appropriate.
All right. Just real quick, Senator Risch, Senator Barrasso, I think it's about 10 o'clock. You guys have to step out unless you want to take more questions.
We can take a couple more, I think.
Are you sure? Okay. Paul, you got a question?
Yes, good morning. Paul Schenkman with U.S. News and World Report. Senator Risch, speaking of allies and partners, I'd like to ask you about Ukraine. Do you believe that Ukraine intervened in the 2016 election? And what concerns do you have about the fact that the president has stated that he believes that happened, in spite of Dr. Fiona Hill's testimony that she describes it as a fictional narrative and also a Russian talking point?
Obviously, you're not one of the guys that chases me down the hall in the Capitol. I'm not answering it. That is a question that is good. That is in the heart of the impeachment process that's going on. It is going on in the House of Representatives right now. I'm not doing any interviews on that. I'm going to be a juror in that case, and so I'm not taking. I'm not giving you a position of what I believe or what I don't believe. This will all be culminated when I cast a vote as a juror in the case.
But is that a question, sir, whether or not Ukraine was involved?
I guess I didn't make myself clear. I am not answering any questions that deal with the impeachment process. It's going on in the House. These fine people over in the House are going through a process over there, and that we have the process for impeachment. And when that's completed, I guess we'll all have a lot to say about it. But when I cast my vote, that's how all this is going to come out.
All right. Next, Murray.
Good morning, Murray Brewster with Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Chairman Risch, I wanted to ask you, we heard your comments about Huawei yesterday, and you recognize the Canadian government is going through its process right now of whether or not to accept it. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts that you could express to the Canadian government.
Yeah, I really do. I would hope that the Canadian government, like any government, as they sort through this, get briefed by their intelligence agencies as to the risks that are involved with signing up with a company that is fully controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And when any information goes to Huawei or through Huawei, the Chinese Communist Party will have access to that information. Is it worth it to save a little bit of money by buying a cheaper system? My conclusion is a resounding no. I would hope that the Canadian government would reach the same conclusion.
And just a quick supplementary question to that. So, you know, you've spoken about the closed-door briefings that you've had. How much of the information the United States has had has been shared with Canadian intelligence agencies?
Canadian intelligence agencies are fully informed on this issue.
All right, thank you.
I gotta go.
You got.
Thank you.
Sorry, senators. All right, we can still carry on. Emily in the back. Oh no, I think we're gonna. If you guys want to stay for more.
He gave us the wave. So
I'm sorry. If gentlemen, do you want to stay for more questions? I'll stay. Angus stays. Sure. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm hoping that you both might be able to speak a bit more broadly when we look at the upcoming United States election and also this impeachment hearing. Can you speak a little bit about what you think that does for U.S.-Canada relations? I know that a lot of Canadians are watching both the impeachment hearing and the election proceedings.
My immediate reaction is nothing that I can think of. In a specific answer to your question, does what's going on in the U.S. now have any effect on Canadian-U.S. relations? And I don't see any relationship whatsoever. It's a relationship that's been maintained over several hundred years, the longest peaceful border in the world. My only concern is I'm urging that a wall be built between Maine and Canada because Canadians keep coming across being nice to us and offering us free health care, and I put a stop to that. Thank you.
Right here.
As you know, Canada is being punished from China for the arrest of the Huawei executive. Do you think the Trump administration has spoken up enough about the hostages that China has taken from Canada, the two Michaels?
I really don't have an answer to that. I echo Senator Risch's comments. We differ sometimes on issues, but not on this one. The risks of Huawei coming into your country, I presume you're Canadian, are far outweigh any benefits. So essentially the hostages that have been taken in China, I think, are regrettable, and I think we should, because Canada is going to bat for us on this issue in terms of the retention of the person in I think Vancouver. I think we should go to bat for Canada, but that's simply my view.
All right, we got time for 2 more questions. Mike, got down here in the front.
I was wondering if you could just weigh in briefly. There's conversations happening today about America and Canada standing with their allies. Of course, America withdrew from northern Syria, and we've seen the results there. There's been more incursions by Turkey, including some seizures of American-provided weapons to the Syrian Kurds. And there's been some speculation or some conversations about introducing new sanctions on Turkey, potentially through the House. I was wondering whether you want to weigh in on that and whether you would support further reprimands against Turkey for potentially even violating their own agreement to cease hostilities.
In the House, each of these measures related to Syria have passed overwhelmingly with bipartisan support. So further sanctions efforts, I imagine the same. I know Representative Liz Cheney has worked on those measures before, and each time that she does, there's broad bipartisan support for tougher sanctions on Turkey. I imagine that won't change.
I would agree. Same in the Senate.
Okay. Down here in the front. Mike, you want to microphone?
Hi, Michael McDonald, Canadian Press. Back to the Huawei situation. If Canada agrees to allow Huawei to come in and sell its 5G network, would that make the United States more reluctant to share sensitive information with this country?
I can't speak for the administration or the executive, but as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, my answer would be yes. It would make it very difficult to have a full intelligence sharing information with a partner who has installed a direct line to Beijing.
All right, folks, that wraps it up. If anybody has any follow-up questions for any of the members of the CODEL, please see the media staff in the back. Thank you very much.